Hello everybody, Andrew Casey from Hypersanity Books. Today we'll be taking a look at triagonists in fiction. With today's video, we'll touch on different subjects around triagonists that might help you with your writing. Otherwise, let's get into it. Number 10. Redeemable qualities.
To Eagle Fang Karate.
Eagles don't have fangs.
One thing I'll give Cobra Kai credit for is with a lot of its storytelling, especially on triagonists that are necessary to the story, there are so many redeemable qualities with a lot of the storytelling and characterization. Yes, in some of the storytelling it's a little simpler to get to that conclusion. I noticed in Season 3 it was easy to follow where Hawk is the triagonist and he's going to redeem himself at the end of the series. It was looking quite obvious, though the storytelling is effective.
A mother called me up because her son was crying after some kids online made fun of his facial deformity.
All right, who's going down next?
Let's go.
He's mine.
Okay, all right, let's see if I can fix that lip of yours then. Wait, stop.
Number 9. The Ghostly Trio.
Hubba hubba!
That's all, you animal. She available, Doc?
One thing I'll say with the Ghostly Trio with every adaptation, rarely will you see any of the Ghostly Trio being separated from each other. When you look at Stretch, he is the head leader and main character of the Ghostly Trio, and then you have Fatso and Stinky. Within the story, that you see it from their point of view as the triagonist for the narrative. In the movie, the only one that was worth watching, Dr. James Harvey is the triagonist of the story, separated from the protagonist and the deuteragonist. With Dr. James Harvey, he interacts with the Ghostly Trio being the triagonist, though when you look at every scene and just about every comic book or cartoon, whatever adaptation, the Ghostly Trio will always be one. Number 8. Healthy and unhealthy rivalry.
You didn't say you would hit back, Dad.
Well, I didn't say I wouldn't hit you, now did I, Trunks?
Focusing on the Vegeta character in the Dragon Ball Z franchise, yes, in the first season, the Saiyan Saga, yes, he is the antagonist. There is more backstory there. With that one moment to have his life spared, the character becomes the triagonist of the story from there. Yes, you can have other characters be represented and depicted as the triagonist depending what current story is being told.
Never say die!
With Dragon Ball Z, the Vegeta character has the rivalry through the story, and you can do more with the character. So at other key moments, the character can have an interaction that breaks away from the main plot. Because he has his own rivalry that's healthy and unhealthy, there are so many things that you can do with the character to keeping that rivalry going with the protagonist, and that's one of the reasons the storytelling was one of the best that was done for anime. Number 7. Behind the scenes. With the movie time-lapse, you have the protagonist and the deuteragonist being the two boys, and then the triagonist is the girl character. While watching the movie, the general premise was the camera across the road takes a photo one day ahead of time, so they're trying to predict the future. With the conflict within the story, I also then worked out what if the camera took the photo 12 hours later, so it was done in a 12-hour time loop. I predicted that. I also noticed the triagonist, being the girl character, was not present in a lot of the scenery because the conflict and the story was focusing on the protagonist and the deuteragonist in their quarrels, as well as the antagonist coming into the story. Now with her character, yes, you can work on triagonists to have that mystery to a story where they're not necessarily present, but there are other things that the character is doing within the story. Even though the story was focused heavily on one particular theme, there was other things that she was doing. And because I already figured out the movie, it kind of got a bit boring because I predicted too much too far ahead. So you might say I had a camera of my own. Number 6. Intellectual Supporting triagonist. One of the best examples is Harry Potter. With the Hermione character, she is the triagonist of the story. With a lot of characterizations and storytelling, when you have characters working together, you will normally find a common trait is the triagonist being a female character and having other intellectual qualities that make them necessary to the party to solve problems that other characters cannot.
Leviosa. Stop. You're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Number 5, the Dark Knight trilogy. With the first movie, it's Rachel who is the triagonist. Some think it's Scarecrow. No, Scarecrow is a sub-antagonist. The main antagonist is Ra's al Ghul. Rachel is the love interest. Alfred is the deuteragonist. In the Dark Knight, obviously, Batman is the protagonist. Alfred is the deuteragonist. And then you have the triagonist being Rachel and, more importantly, Harvey.
Are you telling me that you're gonna protect the other traitor in Gordon's unit?
I don't know. He never told me. Listen, Dan, I swear to God, I didn't know what they were going to do to you.
Within the character change and the character development, even though he becomes a antagonist character within the end, he is still the triagonist of the entire story. Number 4, The Dark Knight Rises. Please hear me out.
I am the League of Shadows. I am here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
With The Dark Knight, yes, it was frustrating. Bruce Wayne's the protagonist, the detective is the deuteragonist, the triagonist is Catwoman, and that's obvious in the story. It's to go with that obvious point. With Bane, he was a really well-made antagonist, memorable. And then you have Talia al Ghul. Yes, she is the triagonist, and in this case, the central antagonist of the trilogy. With the character, though, she has so many scenes like this.
Even before you became a recluse, you never came to these things.
When I was a child, we had almost nothing. But on the nights when we had a fire, we felt very rich indeed.
This bomb is armed. This bomb is mobile. And the identity of the triggerman is a mystery. How good of you to join us, Chair.
The hell did Miranda take at the inside track on the Wayne board?
Child of Ra's al Ghul may decline.
But he's not the child of Ra's al Ghul. I am. I'm a citizen.
So she was a triagonist in the story, and quite necessary in that part. Yes, at that climactic point, it's frustrating. And from there, it leads on towards another climax. Now, yes, that moment is extremely frustrating as all hell because of the characterization and the build-up with Bane as the antagonist. Everything fell apart in that climactic moment to then lead towards more rising action to another climax. So with your storytelling, you can have a triagonist work that way, as this, revealing as the central antagonist. It works well for storytelling, it works well for thrillers and horrors and crime. Though for this particular character, yes, I feel the pain, it was frustrating, but yes, she is the triagonist of the story. Number 3, Jar Jar Binks.
The reason why I almost ended my life on the Brooklyn Bridge was because 20 years ago, I played Jar Jar Binks in Star Wars. There was just so much hate and venom.
Yes, I know what some people will say, but hear it out. With Jar Jar Binks, he is the triagonist of the story. There is also the theory that gets out there that he was also a Sith Lord. He was, if anything, to certain points, he was close to Palpatine. If anything, he was above Palpatine. Because in the story it talked about there being the same with a Jedi and a Master, same with the Sith. With the story, I know it gets busted now that Disney took over and did their movies, but when you look at the first movie and a lot of the key plot points, and compare the theories that get out there about Jar Jar Binks, the manipulation makes sense.
You may have heard already about the theory that's blowing up around the internet right now about how Jar Jar Binks may actually be a Sith Master.
With the Triagonists, there is so much you can do with them. I love Triagonists in fiction. I always look out for a Triagonist, try to feel what the character can do. A lot of the time, I like Triagonists more than I like the protagonist. Number 2, Knuckles the Echidna.
Earth is my turf, G. If you don't know how to floss, you'll be lost without me.
I understand nothing of what you just said.
This is one of my favourite Triagonists of all time. With the character, he is manipulated by Dr. Robotnik. No, not Dr. Eggman, Dr. Robotnik, to thinking that Sonic is the enemy. With the stories in each different adaptation, that's one of the things is Knuckles is influenced under a different set of information to then revealing that Dr. Robotnik is the bad guy all along. And Knuckles gets his redeemable quality story every time. He gets that opportunity within each story. On that note, there was the video game Sonic Heroes. I quite enjoyed it. There were 4 teams, so you have the central protagonist, deuteragonist, triagonist team. And then you have 3 other groups. There is 4 protagonists to the story, as the story is being told, and you have the supporting deuteragonist and triagonist within the story. Now, this formula can just be simple storytelling, though you can write a story with lots of characters, and you can do so much with the story that you're working towards. And that's one of the things, though. With the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, you will always see the central protagonist is Sonic, the central deuteragonist is Tails, and the central triagonist is Knuckles, no matter what story they're telling. Unless it's another sequel spin-off, like Shadow the Hedgehog. Number 1, multiple triagonists or subordinate characters. One thing to make clear with some storytelling, take The Simpsons for example, you have so many characters that are subordinate characters within that world. You have other characters that are necessary to a specific story where they may be a triagonist or an antagonist figure, depending on what's defined in the story and each different story. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. I will be posting more about these sorts of subjects. If you have questions on triagonists or any opinions, please put something in the comments. Otherwise, you can email me, andrewcasey@hypersanitybooks.com. And I'll see you all next time.